Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Anson. So today we're going to build this landing page. I designed this in Figma, and you can take a look at it right over here. It looks pretty good. I like the outcome of it. But for the icons, we're going to be using Font Awesome. So if you want to get a kit from Font Awesome, just go over to fontawesome.com, and you can simply just create a kit. It's very, very simple. You can see I have one over here. If you just go back, you can just let me just see if I can delete this one. Okay, and then just click on New Kit, and there you go. It creates a new one for you, and then you can just copy the code, and it tells you how to use the kit itself. It's very easy. It's just a JavaScript tag. For the vector image right over here, we're going to be using Freepik. So Freepik is a great place to get images, vector images. They have a free tier as well as a premium tier. We're using the free tier over here, so I will leave a link in the description to the image attribution itself. Now for the font, we're going to be using a font called Poppins. This is directly from Google Fonts. It's very easy to use. You can use whatever font you want. And for the wave, right over here, the waves, we're going to be using getwaves.io. It's very easy. You can just simply generate a wave that you like. So let's say, for example, if I like this wave, you can also change the color too. And you can also change the, I guess this is the opacity. Yep. So you can play around with it. And if you like the outcome of the wave, just click on this button. And you can either download the file itself, or you can just copy and paste this whole thing. You can copy it and just paste it into a blank file, name the extension as a .svg file, and there you go. So hopefully all of this makes sense. And let's go ahead and get started on building out this whole interface. Okay, so let's get started. So I already have the project set up already. So I just have a simple HTML file, CSS, and I have my assets. So I have the SVG, that's the phone that you saw earlier in the design, and I have my two waves. Remember, you want both of them to be the same exact thing. If you look at the design, they're both the same right over here. They're just different colors. Okay, and I also have a README. By the way, also all the code will be in the description so you guys can look through it, but these are the two main colors that I'll be using for dark and then gray. Okay, so I think that's pretty much it for the assets. So I have my Font Awesome kit right over here. I'm just going to copy it, and I'll paste it right over here. And I'm going to go ahead and then link my CSS, so index.css. For the font, you can either include it as a link or an import. I'm just going to go ahead and use it as an import, and we're going to place that inside our CSS file right over here. And we'll start off with some basic CSS. So I'm going to make sure I get rid of all the margin and padding by default. So for example, H1 tags have a margin, a default margin, and I'm going to make sure that the HTML and the body have a height of 100%. Okay. And I think, let's see what else. I think, you know what, one thing I'll do is I'll set the font family to Poppins as well. Okay, so you have to make sure you quote the font because it's a Google font. Okay, so I think we have everything that we need. I have my vector icon already, so I don't need to worry about that. So let's go ahead and get started. So we want to first start off with a background color of the dark. So whatever color it was. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here and I'm going to set the background color to that color. And let me actually also right click the index.html file and open with live server. Okay, there you go. You can see that the background color is taken into effect. Okay, great. And what I want to do next is, well, actually, I'm not actually going to set the body background color to this color. What I'm going to do instead is I'm going to create a div, and because basically the way this is going to work is we're going to have 3 divs or 2 divs. So this is going to be one main div, and this is going to be the second main div, and then the bottom will be a footer. So that's not really going to be its own div, but these divs should have the background color because not everything is going to be all dark. Okay. So what I want to do is I'm going to create, I guess, 2 divs. So this will be the main content, and this will be the secondary content. Not the greatest names, okay? and I'm going to get rid of the background color real quick. What I'm going to do is I will make sure that main content has a height of 100%. And the background color will be the same color that I wanted. Okay, there we go. So now let's go ahead and start off by building the navigation bar over here first. So navigation bar is going to be pretty straightforward. We're going to have a simple nav tag, and this nav is going to have a width. I'll probably say 80%. So let me target that. Inside the nav, we're going to have two sections. So you're going to see we have links as well as the icons. So nav itself is going to be a display of flex because we want to make sure that these two are on the same row and there's also some space between. So we're going to set the display to flex after we put in the links. So we're going to use an unordered list, and we're going to have 3 list items. You can have as many as you want, obviously. Just keep in mind the spacing. And we'll do features, pricing, and contact. Okay, and so that itself should be fine. And then I'm going to create a section for these 2 icons. So this is where I'm going to need to make sure I get my icons from Font Awesome. So again, Font Awesome is very easy to use. You can just simply go over here and search for whatever icon you want. So if I want to search for Discord, you can see that it'll pop over here. If you click on it, it'll take you to this page, and you can just copy the HTML, paste that in, and then you can see that the icon is right over there. It's very hard to see, but it is there. And you can search for whatever icon you want. So you don't have to limit yourself to just 2. You can choose to use whatever icons you want. But I'm just going to use 2 icons for now. Okay, and I think that itself should be fine. Okay, so now that we have the icons, we're going to change the color later. But what we want to do is we want to set the display of the nav bar to flex. Because right now you can see that they're right on top of each other, and we don't want that. What we want instead is we want them to be next to each other, and we also want to make sure that the links are right next to each other as well. So the first thing I'll do is I'll set the display to flex for the nav bar, and you can see that the icons are now next to the unordered list. However, the unordered list, the list items, are still underneath each other. To fix that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to target that unordered list. I'll target the nav bar's unordered list. So nav ul list style none. So that should fix it. You can't really see it though. And I want to make sure that all the list items have a display of inline, so they're next to each other. Great. It's very hard to see this, so I'm going to set the font size to, let me see, 32 pixels. That's a little bit too big. We'll do probably 22 pixels. Okay, and then we'll do a color, and I'm going to use the gray color. I think that looks great. So now, if you want to take a look at the nav bar real quick, you can set the background color to white, and you can see that this is how it looks like. I might make it a little bit smaller, so maybe something like, I don't know, 75% or 70%. It's just, it looks too big, but let's get rid of the background color. Let's go ahead and justify the content to center. So you can see, let me actually just bring back the background color, just so you guys can see what actually happens. So you can see now the content is in the middle. We don't want it to be in the middle, we want it to be spaced out. So we're going to set it to be between. Okay, perfect. And now for the nav bar, we're going to set the margin 0 auto. This will center it. Okay, it will center it horizontally, which is good. And now inside the nav bar, we'll give it some padding of 25 pixels. Okay, great. For the list items, we'll give it some padding as well, so that they're spaced out between one another, just like that. Okay, and we'll also do the same thing for the icons as well. So I think maybe what I'll do is for the, let's see, nav I padding 25 pixels. Actually, you know what, for the icons, I'll probably give maybe less spacing. One more thing that I'll make sure I do is I'll set the align items property to center. Okay, that way it'll center it vertically. Now, one more thing I want to do is I want to make sure that this nav bar has a little bit spacing from the top. So I think what I'll do is main content, I'll give some padding from the top of 25 pixels. Now let's get rid of this background color. Now let's go ahead and give the nav bar a box shadow. I'll do 0 pixels, 0 pixels. For the blur, I'll do 35 pixels. For the spread, I'll do 1 pixel. And then we can have a black color with an opacity of maybe 50%. And there you go. It looks pretty good. Okay, I think it looks great like this. You can see that it looks awesome. Okay. I think maybe there might be additional padding from over here, or there's more padding on the links than over here, so we can actually fix that real quick. So maybe I can give padding right 25 pixels to make it look better. Okay, and you know what? From the padding top, I'll actually give more padding for the nav bar. And let's give it a border radius. I'll do 10 pixels. And maybe for the... There we go. And I'll set the blur to maybe 25. It looks pretty good. I mean, I think it's just way too dark, so I think having it a little bit lighter would be a lot better. Okay, this is fine, this is fine, this is better. And since I gave it a padding of top, I'm going to go ahead and set the box sizing of the body to border box, as well as main content, just so that there's no additional height coming from the padding. Okay, great, so we're done with the navigation bar. I think it looks great. I'm not too fond of the box shadow, but again, we can always fix it later on. You know what? For the border radius, I'm gonna make the border radius 20. Okay, I think that'll be better. Okay, so let's not spend too much time on the nav bar because there's a lot more things to do. The next thing we're gonna do is I'm gonna add the background. So the vector, you can see that's right over here. I had the vector over here. We're gonna add that as a background. For main content, I can probably set the background image to, let's do assets, let's do wave light. Let's see how that works. Okay, so it seems like it works. Okay, so we're gonna do no repeats, or I think I can't do that here, but background repeat, no repeat. Okay, and we're gonna set the background position Y to bottom. There we go. And again, it doesn't look exactly the way that I want it to be. Or actually, you know what I could do? I could actually just change the wave I want to. In Figma, you can actually right-click and copy the vector itself. Though it may not look super great because of the set width and height. Yep. I think if I get rid of it, though, it should be fine. Yep, perfect. So now you have the actual vector over the background, which looks amazing in my opinion. Okay, so let's work on these two parts over here. So the title button and the vector image. So inside of the main content, we're going to create a section, and I'll give this section a class. I'll call it a content body. Not the best class name. Okay, and this itself is going to have a display of flex. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. So let's get rid of this. Display of flex, and we're going to also have another div, or we're gonna have two elements inside here. So inside content body, we're gonna have a div that's going to actually, you know what, I'm gonna use the aside tag itself, and that itself is going to have an h1, and this is going to be the title, so hello world. And then it's also going to have the button inside it as well, so that itself will be, I'll just give it a div, and we'll give it some text. I'll use a p tag for now. Or actually, you know what? I'll use a span instead. Okay. We'll style it later. Outside of the aside, we're going to use a vector. So I think the best thing to do was maybe use image source assets, and I named it phone.svg. And you can see the vectors right over there. Perfect. Okay, so right now, let me just give the content body a background color of black so I can see what it looks like. Okay, great. So I think maybe for height, I'll do 500 pixels, though for some reason the vector doesn't look that nice. I'm not sure why. Maybe we'll have to set an actual width and height for it. So 400 pixels. Okay, that's fine. I think 400 pixels is fine. Okay. All right. So right over here for the content body, I want to make sure that this H1 is a little bit bigger. So what I'll do is I'll take content body, target the H1. We'll give it a font size of 64 pixels. Okay, that looks great. All right, so next thing you want to do is for the div, where you want to give it a ID, and I'll just call this button for now. I think we're only going to have one button, to be honest, so I think that'll be okay. Okay, so for the button, let's see. We want the background color to be the grayish color. So we'll do a background color of gray. Okay, perfect. And let's see. So the width itself, we'll have to fix that. And the font size, we'll do 32 pixels. Might be a little bit too big. Yep, it might be a little bit too big. We'll fix the sizing later. Actually, I'll do maybe 20 pixels. Padding, we'll give it a padding of, that's too much. Okay. Now for the width, I'm not sure why it's set to, it might just be because of the display of flex. And I'll center the text as well. Let's give it a border radius of 25 pixels. Actually, I'll do 35 pixels. And I'll give it a larger width. Okay, great. We'll change it later, don't worry. And I think this itself should be fine temporarily. I'm more concerned about centering these two things. So actually what I'm going to do is for content body, we're going to set the width to 70%. I want it to be the same width of the nav bar, and we'll use a margin 0 auto. There we go. And we can give the content some padding. So the same thing that we're doing over here for the nav, because I want them to be pretty much same width, pretty much. And we'll also, let's see, we'll set the justify content to space between. So that way it's right next to each other. Well, there's some spacing over here. Okay, I think that itself should be fine. We don't have to worry about the padding though, because it's pretty much like invisible. Like there's no background, so it's really impossible to tell. It'll look like there's padding from here, but reality is just this container. Okay, so I want to make sure I have this hello world. I want it to be centered, and the easy thing to do with that is inside this aside, I'm going to target that. I'm not going to give it an ID or a class, but I'm going to target the aside right over here. I'm going to give it a display of flex, and we're going to give it a flex direction of column. And I want to align items center. No, that's not what I want. I think justify content. There we go. Justify content. Perfect. It's because we have it set to flex column. Okay, the width of the actual H1, I'm not too fond of that. Maybe I can set the font weight to lighter, maybe. There we go. The button itself is way too big in my opinion. For the width, I'll probably just set it to maybe 220. It's way too big. You know what? I'll probably do 200. And you know what? Actually, let's just give it 180. I think that itself should be fine. Alright, and we can also give it a box shadow as well. So let's do that real quick. Okay, looks good, looks good. Alright, awesome. I like it. I like it. Okay, great. Let's see. Also, one more thing I'll do is for content body. There's a little bit too much. It's too close up here. I actually want it to be a little bit more further down. So margin top. I think that itself should be fine. And if I really wanted to make this a little bit closer, I could just do that. But ultimately, I think 70 pixels. I mean, 70% for the width is fine. I could give it a little bit more padding if I want to, but I don't need to do that. I think this itself looks great. Okay, awesome. Actually, you know what? I'm going to give it a little bit more margin because I want it to be a little bit more further down. Okay, perfect. All right, so I think we're done with the, the main part. I think it looks great. Let's work on the center part now. So the center part is going to be pretty simple. You can see right over here we have this wave on the bottom. So all that we're going to do is we're going to create another div, which I think we already did, secondary content. So that's this part over here. And this div is going to have a background color of the gray, pretty much the same color as the wave. And then you can pretty much guess that what we're going to do is we're going to give the background image of this wave as well. And that's going to be the same color as the top. So it looks nice ultimately. I like it. All right. So let's target secondary content now. And let's see, maybe I could reuse some styling. So let's see if I can do anything. I could probably reuse some of the same styling, and we can change up a couple of things. So for example, secondary content, we can change the background color. So the background color instead will be, let's copy that right over here. So you can see that it goes down, looks nice. And then for the background image, we're going to have to change that to wave dark.svg. And there you have it. And oh wait, the vector over here is not the same, so I have to actually copy this one. The one that I downloaded from getwaves.io is not the same as the one in Figma. I want to get a different one, but I think this one looks better. Okay, great. It looks great. I really like it. I really like it. Let's do one more thing. Let's get rid of that scroll bar. Because I don't really like it, if I'm being honest with you. There we go. Alright, so let's work on the cards now. Everything else from here should be pretty simple. So for the secondary content, we're going to have a section. And inside the section, we're going to have, I think maybe, you know what, for secondary content, I think maybe itself, I don't know if I want to keep everything inside secondary content or if I should just, actually, you know what, screw it. I think secondary content itself should stay the same. In the sense that I don't have to create another wrapper. I can just put 3 sections inside here. And those sections will be the card. And I can just set the display to flex. So let's go and do that first. So for the cards, I have different colors for each. The first one is going to be a white color. The second one, if I can click on this, will be a little gray, and then the last one will be a darkish color. So let's go ahead and do that. I'll start off with the H1 tags first. I'll start off with the title. So organized simple support. So organized simple supports. And now we need our text. So let me go ahead and grab that real quick. So we'll use a p tag. And again, the text can be whatever you want. It doesn't matter. I'm just going to copy and paste the same one that I have right over here. Might as well, don't have to, rewrite these things over and over again. Okay. And now let's go ahead and I'm just going to give this a class. I'll call it card. And I'll give that class over here, and I'll give that class over here for all the sections. And now for secondary content, let's set the display to flex. So now you should see that they're all next to each other. Okay. Let's go down over here and let's set the card. So I'm going to give it a width. For each, I'll do 400 pixels because I want them to all have the same width. Give it some box sizing of border box so that if we give it any padding or margin, it won't affect the width. Let's give it some padding now of 25 pixels. Okay. I think we also want to give it some margin so that it's spaced between. Alright, so instead of giving an individual ID or class, a new class for each card, I'm actually going to use the nth child selector. So that it makes it easy to select certain children inside the secondary content div. So I think the best thing to do is, let's see, let's do secondary content. Might not even need to reference the ID card nth child. So I think if I select the first one, I don't know if it's 0 index, but we'll find out. Okay, there we go. It's not 0 index. Now, for some reason, the height is way too big, which is not what I wanted. Why is the height so damn big? That is very, very concerning. Let's just change that real quick. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to change the width to 300. I'm going to change... I think, 300 is fine. I think it's fine. Again, we don't need to make it exactly like the... We don't need to make it exactly look like what we have in the original design. We can modify it a little bit. You don't have to copy everything for what it is. Okay? But anyways, let me also set the border radius to 25 pixels as well. And actually, I'll do the height of 350. Okay. Let's select the second one. I'm going to see if I can select it. I don't think I need to reference the ID. Let's select the second one, and let me see if I could change it to white first. Okay, perfect. So I don't need the ID. That's right, because it will select it based off of whatever its parent is, I think. Okay, so let's get the color for that now. Perfect, and we'll change the color. Don't worry. And the last one, let's do that as well. Alright, perfect. Awesome, I like it. Now let's go ahead and just give it a font color of white for all of these. Okay, this is a little bit way too bright. So I might actually change this grayish color, maybe something a little bit darker. Maybe. There we go. I think this is fine. Okay. Awesome. And of course you can fill up the text however you want. You can change the font size to, let's say, 22 pixels, though that's a little bit too big. But yeah, feel free to do whatever it is that fits your needs. Okay, so we're not done yet. We're going to need to go back to secondary content. Since it's set to a display of flex, let me actually just set the justify content to center, and there you have it. You have 3 cards. Now the spacing, you can actually change it up a little bit. You can probably do space around or space evenly. I think space evenly might be better. Well, it depends, because there's way too much spacing. So I could probably get rid of the margin up top. It's up to you. You can also, if you want, you can also just wrap all of these cards inside its own container, and you can set the width. So I'll actually do that real quick. I'm gonna go ahead and just take all of this, and I'm gonna wrap it inside its own container. So I'll just call this card container. Let's see if it changed much. Okay, it doesn't look that great. That's because secondary content is flex box and not card container. So we'll fix that. So card container will have a display of flex. There you go. And we're gonna do, let me just give it a background color real quick of black so I can see what it looks like. I don't understand why the height is like that, but let me just set the height to 400 pixels real quick. 350. I don't feel real great about that, but it is very weird. Okay, but we're not gonna be putting any margin anyway, so that's fine. Okay, so for the width, I'm gonna go ahead and give the width the same width that I gave to the navbar, which is 70%. Okay, and then we're going to set justify content space between. And there you have it. So it looks pretty awesome, in my opinion. If you give it some padding, because the navbar does have padding. There we go. It'll look. There we go. Perfect. So let's go ahead and do one more thing with the cards. Let's give it a box shadow. I think box shadows make things look more poppin', like it pops out more, you know. I'm gonna give the box shadow, I'm gonna give it a let's see, a y-axis offset of 5, and I want this to be more visible. All right, and last but not least, we're gonna work on the footer now. So we're gonna go ahead and let's see, div ID content over here. Okay, footer. So we are going to use the footer tag, and I'm going to just give it a set height of I think maybe 700 pixels should be fine. The background color is going to be the same as the this wave, the last wave. So we're gonna have to get that real quick. There we go. 700 pixels may have been way too big, so let's do maybe 400. Actually, 300 might be okay. We'll see. We'll see. All right, so this is just going to be some links. So we'll have a flex box, three items. It's pretty much going to be identical to the card on how we set up the layout. And then outside, we're going to have the bottom 4 icons. So let's do section. Okay, so I'll have a section that will be a display of flex. So let me just call this, give it an ID, call it a footer links container. Footer links container. And I'll have a display of flex, and justify content will be space between. And the width of it will be the same as the nav bar and everything else, because we want everything to be, you know, again, you want there to be this like invisible border. Pretend like there's an invisible border, right? So we'll leave it at 70%, and we'll give it some padding. We'll do that later. We're gonna have 3 sections inside this container, and each section is going to have a title, so additional information, and then we're gonna have an unordered list of everything that we want. So let's do about hello world. Again, whatever the title is for your website. Okay, it looks great. Looks great in my opinion. All right, so let's just copy and paste that a couple times. Okay, we're gonna have to get rid of the list, the bullet point. It's very easy to do that. What I can do is I'm gonna select the footer links container, or I can actually just do footer. So every single unordered list, set the list style to none, and that'll give the bullet points, which is great. Okay, and let's go ahead and get the other text as well. So products and services will be right over here, and then resources and links. All right, and of course, I'm not gonna bother changing most of these things. I'll just leave it the way it is, because I don't want to, like, you know, spend too much time just like rewriting the same thing over again when it really doesn't make any difference in terms of UI layout wise. So we need to go ahead and let's see, footer links container. We want to go over to the footer now, and we want to set the display to flex, and then you want to set justify content to center, I think. Yep, perfect. Perfect. All right, now for the H1s inside the footer, what I'll do is I will set the footer H1 font size. I'll do 32 pixels. Actually, that's way too big. I'll do 20 pixels. 22 pixels maybe. All right. Just want to make sure that they're on the same line. Okay. Color we'll set to not white, but the same color. Again, the 2 colors that we're using all the time. Okay, perfect. I think this is too small. I'll do that, and I'll set the font weight to lighter. All right, awesome. And now for the unordered list, well, actually, generally, let me set the color to that right there. Perfect. So I don't have to do this. And I think that itself should do the trick for the footer, in my opinion. All right, so I think that is it for that part. The last thing that we're going to do is we're going to set up the icons on the bottom. So I think maybe I'll probably have to do the outside over here. So I'll do section. And we're going to have to get all 4 of those icons, which is not a big deal. First, I'm just going to copy and paste these 2. And again, you can search up whatever icons you want. I already know the names of it. So for example, there's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. So where's the, yep, right over here. Okay, so what's it looking like right now? Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and then. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is for the footer, I'm gonna get rid of the display for flex. Okay, and instead what I'll do is for the footer links container, I'm gonna set the margin 0 auto so that it will just center it just like that. And I'll also give this an ID of footer icons. And I'll set the margin 0 auto as well. And it's not going to work because we need to give it a width of 70% first. Alright, and then I'm going to go ahead and target every single icon. And for the color of the icon, we're going to do the same one right over here. And we'll change the size to 32 pixels. And we can also give it a margin as well. So margin 5 pixels. Though I'll probably just do margin left and I'll do 5 pixels. Or actually not margin left, margin right. 15 pixels. Actually 10 pixels. I think 10 is fine. Alright, and that is pretty much it for this entire design. Hopefully you guys liked this tutorial, and if you guys do, please leave a like down below and share this video with someone. And I'll see you guys in my next video. Peace.